Okay, here we go. Are you ready? Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. Hello and welcome back. This is Don't Watch at Night, a spooky little podcast dedicated to Spanish language horror and Latin American horror. I'm your host, Valerie.
And I'm Veronica.
And we are exorcising the demons, apparently.
Yes.
Both
I wish it
literally
were that
and
easy.
figuratively.
Wish it were that easy.
For those of you tuning in on Monday, which is when you would be, this is when it will be released. You are listening on the other side of the election. We are recording this on the other side of the election. Ron, I don't know if you want to talk about how you are. If you want,
We are in the darkest timeline.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it's my own fault for getting as hopeful as I had gotten. So I'm just it's almost like waffling between all the stages of grief. Like 1 minute I'm sad, then I'm pissed off, and then I'm just heartbroken, and then just kind of numb. And so I'm just kind of back and forth. And
I will tell you, hope is never wrong. Hope is never wrong. But I will tell you that I have not, I know everyone's going through various stages of despair, and all of it is understandable and valid. I personally have not emoted at all. I've been in rage stage of grief, I guess, but I haven't cried. I have just been going back and forth between numb and rage, and that's it. And I don't know what that means. I don't know what that says about where I am at with this and where we are as a country this time around, this second time around.
And like I was telling my husband, I knew that obviously racism is an ever-present thing. I had just completely underestimated the level of misogyny that still exists in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what floored me.
And
that's, I think, my biggest disappointment.
And I will definitely have more to say on that today in our second segment. I prepared remarks. Get ready. I wasn't surprised, and yet I still just found it baffling. I just found it baffling because as everyone else has been saying on all the other podcasts that I'm sure you guys listen to and all the other things you're reading, the difference between 2016 and now is in 2016, you could, if you wanted to, you could make the allowance for people that maybe they just underestimated who they were voting for. They didn't know what they were electing. They didn't understand the gravity of what was at stake and what they had just jeopardized. This time around, we can't say we didn't know. We can't say that we didn't have that information. So it's either you know and you don't care or what? I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's the for me, and we'll get to it in second segment, but for me, what I seriously have just been beating my head against a wall over is all of the people, the number, the exit polls and the data that's come out, the number of people who voted for abortion access protections and yet still voted for him, thinking that because they were voting for protections at the state level, that it would make a difference. And these are people who obviously don't understand how federal restrictions will work if he decides to implement them. The cognitive dissonance is what blows my mind. Anyway.
The darkest
not
timeline.
To rant on you people in the opening segment. Other than that, I have become one with the Halloween candy. I am just compulsively eating it. So
is that your coping?
Are you hydrating? Are you exercising? Are you working out? All that stuff?
Well, I mean, I'm still doing my usual. I have retreated into what in the bookish world is my equivalent of literary comfort food, which for me is historical mysteries, but not the dark historical mysteries with the grisly crime scenes. It's more like
which I love.
Well, I love those too. But when I'm already in a distraught state, or I need comfort food, but in the form of a book, it's the cozy historical mysteries that with kind of like the amateur sleuth, and it's like generally they're always 3-star reads for me. I like them. They're nothing great, but they don't draw on my emotions heavily, which is what I don't want, because
Right.
I'm already wallowing in my emotions. I don't need I don't need something else pulling on them.
You know what I want? I went this week I was just like, I'm going to veg out. I'm going to watch some TV. And I went to go put on like some of my true crime. You know, I love true crime. And I couldn't do it, Ron. I was just like, he's taken that from me. I don't even get to enjoy my true crime right now because I'm just like, I don't have the emotional bandwidth.
You
I
don't
don't
get
have
to
the
enjoy
emotional
murder.
bandwidth for it.
No, yeah, you just need to do light stuff that, you don't have to really.
I ended up watching The Birdcage, which is great.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. Let's play a game. Because the world is going to hell and nothing matters, we decided, what if we played a game called What's Your Fate in a Zombie Movie? Or What's Your Fate in a Zombie Apocalypse? It feels like we're, as Veronica said, entering the darkest
Hadn't we
timeline.
already established that we're both going to die pretty early on?
I don't know. See, I believe that because you are so savvy in the zombie apocalypse world, I think Ronnie's going to make it, and I think I'm going to not. Since we are in the darkest timeline, it makes sense that we start talking darkest timeline strategy. So I'm going to read the question. Veronica, I'm going to read all of the answer options for you, and then you're going to pick the one that you want, and we'll go through it until we get to the end of this quiz. And for those of you who want to play along, we will link it for you in show notes. It's at autostraddle.com. Quiz called What's Your Fate in a Zombie Movie? So, Ron, are you ready for question 1?
I suppose so. Hit me.
You and a group of friends are on a road trip listening to the radio, but the music cuts off by a weird breaking news report. You catch something about a quarantine, containment, infectious disease, maybe cannibalism, the undead. What's your move? Do you hush everyone and turn the volume up? Are you not really listening because you were sleeping, perhaps in the back seat? Do you turn the radio off, tell everyone to calm down, play music from your phone instead? Do you suggest turning around and stopping at the dive bar about a few miles back? Do you start looking up more information on your phone? Or do you casually posit a hypothetical apocalyptic situation and ask everyone what their strengths would be? Or, final option, tell someone to reach into the trunk and get the go bag that you keep in your car. It's a lot of options.
Well, I know what I should add. Well, what a more responsible answer would be, but the truth of the matter is, if it's a long car ride, I'm probably asleep and I missed the whole radio announcement. So
I know.
that's the honest answer. I could have lied and sounded more prepared, but honestly to God, I probably would have been asleep or dozing off.
I am usually sitting in the passenger seat with my head tilted back, mouth agape, just like fully asleep while Alex is driving. Time for the opening montage sequence. We have a freeze frame of your face overlaid with your name and the fun zombie movie tag for you. So example, you might have Kayla and she's the team mom. What is your tag, Veronica? Are you the good friend, the hot one, the goofball, the badass, the nerd, the hammer, whatever that means, or the slayer?
I feel like none of these really apply, but if those are the only options, I guess the good friend.
The good friend. I would be the good friend or maybe the nerd. I don't know.
A book nerd, but not, I don't know computers. So in that sense, I'm not a nerd.
Maybe that's wrong. I wouldn't be helpful in like a tech situation. But someone turns the radio off and you and your friends do start talking about what you would bring to the table in the event of a hypothetical zombie apocalypse. What would you say your strength is? Are you a problem solver? Would you be good at nothing? Do you provide comedic relief? Can you improvise when the plan goes awry? Do you have a relentless sense of hope in the face of disaster? Is your strength your intuition? Or have you prepared for this exact situation? You're like a prepper.
I think I can improvise on the fly.
Okay.
Pretty good at just like, okay, pivot.
I'm going to say I could maybe improvise. I would definitely, I don't know if I'd be relentless in my sense of hope, but I do kind of take it upon myself in certain situations to be in charge of morale. So maybe I could be good at that. Anyway, all right, next question. You start to near a small town, but something looks off. There's no one outside and houses are boarded up. What do you do? Do you turn off the music and tell everyone to be on high alert? Do you suggest finding a grocery store that you guys can get snacks at? Do you roll down your window and shout, "Hey, is anyone out there?" Do you tell the driver to pull over so you can get out and look around? Do you call someone you love and ask if they've noticed anything weird where they live? Do you turn the radio back on to see if there's more info? Or do you give friends a quick rundown of the effective ways to kill a zombie?
Probably turn the music off until everyone high alert.
I definitely don't get out of the car.
I'm shoving the person who's yelling, hey, is anyone out there out of the car? They're on their own.
Yeah,
He's out of the group. He's kicked off the island.
You're banned. The group takes a vote and decides to turn around. The roadside bar a few miles back looked somewhat less apocalyptic compared to this town, so you head there to regroup. Someone hands you the aux cord in the meantime. This is such a dumb question. What 80s song are you going to put on for you to all sing along to get your minds off the creepiness? Are you singing Chain Reaction by Diana Ross? I Want to Dance with Somebody, Whitney Houston. Heaven is a Place on Earth by Belinda Carlisle. Everybody Wants to Rule the World, Tears for Fears. Fast Car, Tracy Chapman. Ain't Nobody by Shaka Khan, or Eye of the Tiger by Survivor. I mean, I get wanting to take your mind off of it, but I feel like you also need to pump yourself up. So maybe it's Eye of the Tiger. I think if I were to listen to Fast Car, I would just give up on life. Same with Everybody Wants to Rule the World. I would just get depressed.
I don't know that this was an 80s song. Was it an 80s song? Highway to Hell by AC/DC. I don't really care for any of these songs. I mean, I like them, but wouldn't have been what I would.
Highway to Hell, sung by AC/DC. I'm going to look it up real quick. It came out in 1979.
I'll allow it.
It counts.
It's close enough.
Okay, but since that's not an option, I'm going to select Eye of the Tiger for us. Kind of the same vibe. We're not looking to get depressed, but we're also not looking to just completely...
We need to hype up.
Yeah, we need to hype up. We need to get ready for the fight. So here we go. Your crew pulls up to the bar, and when you walk in, everything looks pretty normal. Some folks are shooting pool. Some are drinking at scattered stools and tables. Bartender looks pretty cute. What's your first move here? Do you tell your friends to find a table and order drinks for everyone? Do you abandon your friends entirely and get your flirt on with the cute bartender? Do you open your dating app to see if there are any hotties nearby? Do you ask people playing pool if you can get next game? Do you ask some of the people in the bar if they know anything about the town up ahead, order a Bud Light, or ask if anyone wants to do shots?
Ask for intel.
Ask for info. We're not wasting time drinking Bud Light.
Well, you know me, I would be drinking Bud Light. I don't like beer.
You end up talking to the bartender and casually ask her about zombies, and it turns out she knows a lot about them. She shows you the double-barrel shotgun she keeps behind the bar, just in case. What are your thoughts? You want to know more about her? You're definitely sticking around with her if things get weird. You think she's a little strange for being so prepared. You ask if you can check it out. You offer to buy her a drink. She reminds you of someone from your past, or that's hot.
She is my new best friend, so I am sticking to her like glue.
We're sticking around with her. She's on our team. Okay, it's time for a dramatic flashback to provide some exposition for your character and make viewers emotionally attached to you so that they're sad when you probably die. What is the focus of your flashback, Ron? Is it a quick recap of how you all became friends in the first place? Is it a montage of you living life lavishly? Is it a friendship fight you had with someone in the group? Is it your band rising to stardom? Is it a bad breakup? Is it a major life regret? Or is it you warning people that a zombie apocalypse was imminent?
I have always told people it's gonna happen.
You're like the Leonardo DiCaprio in Don't Look Up. But
I'm ahead of my time.
Okay, your next question. The sound of a bunch of motorcycles rolling up to the bar interrupts everyone, and you all look outside. But something's wrong with this biker squad. They look decayed. It's zombies, and they're here to kill. So think fast. Do you gather your friends and come up with a plan? Do you start live streaming? Do you panic? Do you try to figure out if there are slow zombies or fast zombies? There's a big difference. Do you cry? Do you barricade the bar? Or do you start looking for weapons?
I feel like this should be multiple choice. I mean, multiple option. Because I would be panicking, barricading the bar, looking for weapons.
Panicking, crying, barricading the bar, looking for weapons. Those are
all of the above, really, except the live stream.
Yeah, because I feel like you've got to be multitasking. You can't just be looking for weapons. You need to also be barricading the bar.
And there is a big difference. Are these slow zombies or fast zombies? Because
it does not let me pick one. What's our one? Start looking for weapons?
So first we need to barricade the bar. We need to keep them from getting in. So I think that's
barricade the bar. Barricade the bar. Okay. The bartender grabs her shotgun, tells everyone, find a weapon. Great. Okay. What are you picking up? Are you picking up booze bottles? Maybe you can shift them to makeshift explosives. Are you picking up a leather jacket for the aesthetic? Are you picking up a big knife, aim for the brain? A pool cue snapped in half on your knee, obviously, a spiked bat, there's one behind the bar for some reason, a tire iron, or a Pulaski, aka fire axe, but you know the technical term. I mean, if there's an axe, I guess I'm getting an axe.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna, well,
I don't know.
I was gonna say the spiked bat, but then what if it gets stuck in their head and you're like, can't yank it back out?
Here's the situation. I have thought.
Where's the gun? Why is there not a gun in the option?
Well, because the bartender has the gun. She's the only one who has the gun. But here's the thing. The problem with a big knife, and I've thought about this over the years, the problem with a big knife is that you have to use it. It's an up-close weapon where you have to like get up close to inflict the damage. And I don't know if I have those kind of cojones. So
Well, that's why I don't like any of these options, because you have to get within arm's reach, basically, to use any of these. That's why a gun is preferable, because you can do it from clear across the room.
Well, see, and this is why I would think I would maybe, I'd maybe have to go with the axe because I don't think I could stab someone with a pole cue. So maybe a
It's not a
bat.
someone, Valerie. It's an zombie.
That's true. So maybe a bat or an axe because I could swing those like a bat, like you would a bat, and what it hits is what it hits. It's a little bit different than like getting up close and directly plunging a knife into someone.
Yeah,
Or
I
a
guess.
tire iron.
I object to all these options.
Okay, well, you said bat first, so let's go with
Okay.
bat. A spiked bat. Okay, bad news. They're fast zombies.
We're dead.
Probably not surprising, given that they know how to ride motorcycles, but they're skilled undead beings. You'll be able to barricade the bar for now, but it's not going to hold. You have a few minutes to Google anything you want to about zombies. What are you Googling? Are they combustible? A zombie killing YouTube tutorial. Underground bunkers near me. Stabbing 101. Are zombies inherently evil, or can you teach them to be good? DIY booby traps, or Zombie, the song from the Cranberries. Zombies, are they combustible? That's a good one because you've got a lot of access to alcohol, and alcohol is flammable.
Flammable.
Yeah, let's go with that one.
Let's go with that. Okay,
this is a weird question. Do you have it open in front of you, Ron?
Yeah, but I don't know who some of these characters are.
Okay, so the question we're at, listeners, the barricade won't hold much longer. Quick, you need to physically call upon the energy of a kick-ass fictional character to guide you in this fight. And so it gives us a list of characters to choose from. And because I am definitely not a zombie fanatic, I don't know all of these. Do you know any of these, Ronnie?
Well, the first one is Batgirl, or Batwoman, I'm sorry. I think the second one is that, I never saw this show, but that Eve, with what was that, Christina O, that show? Killing Eve?
Killing Eve.
That's her.
Okay.
But I don't know anything about her character because I never saw that movie. I don't know who the third one is. The fourth one is Harley Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
The one below her is another superhero, but I don't know who it is off the top of my head. And the last two, I have no clue who they are.
Okay, well, I'm inclined to go with either the girl with the shotgun or the girl holding the bloody wrench, because these be girls who clearly know how to fight. I guess superheroes also know how to fight. So
I'm going to go with Batwoman because Batman's my dude. And if she fights anything like him, has any of the gadgets that he does.
That's true. Although, it's weird that they would include Batwoman in this. Like, does she fight zombies ever? I don't know. It seems a random move. Okay, we'll go with Batwoman. The zombies are in. One runs up on the bartender whose shotgun is malfunctioning. What do you do?
Of course it is.
Do you create a distraction? Do you scream? Do you let her die? Dive over the bar and grab the gun, fix it, and fire just in the nick of time? Do you save the bartender and confess that you're in love with her? Throw something sharp as hard as you can directly at the zombie's head, or throw a spare weapon to the bartender, but then quickly move along because there are more zombies to kill.
Throw her a spare weapon and
move on.
Give her a chance to save herself, but I got to keep fighting too.
It's every woman for herself. Okay, you get your own super stylized fight scene, and it's your time to shine. What's the song playing, Ron? Is it Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes? Brutal by Olivia Rodrigo, Monster by Lady Gaga, Transparent Soul by Willow, Creep by Radiohead, Disturbia by Rihanna, or Savage by Megan Thee Stallion?
I don't know, because I don't know what some of these songs sound like.
I would go with Disturbia or Savage because it's
you
Megan
pick,
Thee Stallion.
I don't know.
Okay, I'm feeling
or if I've heard these songs before, I don't know what they're called. I don't know that this is what they were called, so I'm not sure.
I'm gonna go Disturbia. I'm gonna go with Rihanna. That's a good one. Last question. The zombie killing continues, and soon your fate will be determined by this quiz. But before that happens, choose a thing to do in slow motion. Walking away from the explosion, doing a hair flip, body slamming a zombie, run on top of the bar, give a nod of encouragement to your friend, strike a power pose holding a gun in one hand and a knife in the other, or brain 2 zombies at once.
Brain 2 zombies.
Let's brain
at
2
once.
zombies
Yeah.
at once.
With a hair flip.
You died after racking up the highest kill count. You've got hero potential and you're a zombie killing machine, but your hubris will be your undoing. Even the strongest and toughest amongst us can't survive a zombie apocalypse. At least you went down swinging.
So basically, there's no hope for you.
There's no hope for us.
Goes without saying, guys, we are going to be talking about the movie and events in the movie, so there will be spoilers. So if you haven't watched it and you would like to watch it, go do that and then come back. If you don't care about being spoiler, then keep on listening. But this time around, we watched 2022's Piggy, which is a Spanish horror film, although I would debate that horror tag.
Yeah.
Tagline says, an overweight teen is bullied by a clique of cool girls poolside while holidaying in her village. The long walk home will change the rest of her life. Directed by Carlota Pereda and starring Laura Galán, Richard Holmes, Carmen Machi, Irene Ferrero, Jose Pastor, Camille Aguilar, Claudia, I can't read my writing, is that Salas? Yeah. And Julian Valcarcel. And this was originally a short film that Carlota Pereda did, and then it was expanded into this longer movie that we watched, that I just watched last night. When you watched it earlier in the week, correct?
I watched it Monday, yeah.
Monday.
Because I didn't know if I would have, if things went south as they did on election night, I didn't know if I would have the capacity to watch it later in the week. So
yeah, it was hard. Initial thoughts. For you.
I agree with you. Like I felt like light on horror until we got to kind of the end, and then we got to get a little bit of slasher-ness there. But yeah, ultimately, which honestly it worked out okay, because I don't think I would have had the bandwidth this week to do something that was going to require too much of me. And so thankfully this movie I felt was pretty easy viewing. It was not by any means scary or over the top with the violence. So
I would have just classified it as more just like thriller or psychological thriller, suspense thriller, not necessarily like horror, but whatever.
Yeah.
Tomato.
Yeah. I mean, like the ending scenes with the girls in the warehouse they're in, like there's a little bit of gruesomeness there. We'll cover that, but yeah, that was the only part of the movie where I was just like, ooh, that's nasty. What did you think of it? But apart from not necessarily super scary, super horrific.
I thought it was okay. I thought it was an hour and 40 minutes, which was probably, in my opinion, 10, 15 minutes too long.
Okay. Yeah.
I think for me, like an hour 30, an hour and a half, that's kind of the sweet spot for this type of film. Anything longer, because Robert actually, for the first time, actually sat down and watched this movie with me.
Oh.
And I think it has to do with the election, because he knew I wasn't in the headspace for necessarily wanting to be in a dark place. So he volunteered to watch it with me, and he was like, yeah, it did feel kind of in the middle, like it was dragging there.
Yeah.
So I think it could have been tightened up, the pacing tightened up a little bit more. But
yes,
definitely an interesting concept, kind of tackles bullying and kind of what the bullied person goes through and how desperate our main character, who's being fat shamed and bullied by these girls. Well, 2 girls, and the other one who I got the sense that maybe they were friends when they were younger.
Once upon a time. Yeah,
I got that vibe too. And as they've grown up, she kind of fell in with the cool kids. And we never see her specifically targeting or participating in the bully, but she doesn't have the courage to stand up.
Right. And she never has a redeeming moment where she does.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't happen.
So,
and those characters are like that useless one who goes along. Her name is Claudia.
Claudia.
And then there's Maca. Maca is one of them.
Maca
I don't know what that's short for.
What was the other one's name?
I just call them the mean girls. Rosie. Okay.
Rosie, I think, is the one that took the picture. In the butcher shop that then they put on social media.
That's right. Okay.
So Maca's like the long, straight, dark hair that was
right.
Really,
she's like the queen bee.
Yes.
The queen
leader.
Queen witch. Okay, so yeah, like we're setting up a lot of the world that Sarah lives in and what her life is like. One thing, apart from being bullied by these girls and kind of being body shamed all the time, she lives with her family. They run a butcher shop. And so she spends a lot of her days working in that shop, doing her schoolwork and daydreaming about what life would be like if she was one of the beautiful people, one of those popular girls who
Mhm.
are relentlessly awful to her. And they call her, what they call her, Cerdita?
Cerdita.
Piggy. So, I mean, that's just what they're calling her throughout the film. And like Ronnie said, like we said, in terms of like gruesome horror, there's nothing at all in the opening section of the movie. We did get a cool scene where we got to see like them making the sausage, and that's a lot bloodier than I realized it was. It's like me.
Yeah, that first scene would probably be kind of hard for vegetarians
For vegetarians,
or
yeah.
vegans.
And kind of, I mean, is there anything else, any other elements in the beginning, the setup, that you wanted to highlight?
It's not just outside for parents also, particularly her mother,
Mhm.
don't seem to be very in tune with what's going on with her. The mother seems pretty, what's the word? Unsympathetic.
Unsympathetic and kind
I
of
don't want to call her a harpy, but
overbearing.
overbearing, just
Yeah.
kind of always picking at her. And so she doesn't have a supportive, I don't think they're terrible, like horrible parents. They don't mistreat her or anything, but they're just not aware of what's going on. They're not emotionally supportive.
Yeah.
They're just oblivious, basically.
Yeah. So she's going through all this, right? The first big thing that happens in the movie is the moment where Sarah decides to walk and take a swim at the local public pool. She gets
So
there
she
and
goes to the pool. All the cool kids had been there earlier, and now when she gets there, it looks like she's going to have the place to herself. She comes out from the dressing room. She's in her bathing suit, and she's about to get into the water when all of a sudden this man pops up from underwater and doesn't say a word.
Yes.
And he's just staring at her and
just being creepy.
just being creepy. And instead of like turning around and leaving immediately, she just stands there. And then the mean girls, for some reason, are back and they see her from the road. And the queen bee, Maka, just really immediately just starts off just verbally abusing her and making
Just
fun
like
of her.
relentless.
Just,
Like,
yeah, it was like, all
will
right,
not
are
let
you not
up.
tired? Like,
Have you
move
made your
on.
point?
Move on. And the man in the water is not saying anything. He's just observing this. Sara's getting more and more upset. She jumps in the water.
In an effort to kind of escape their
Yeah,
noise.
like
Yeah.
she goes underwater, and at some point here, the man eventually gets up and leaves, but he's still observing from a distance. He's still watching from the road because the mean girls, Maka, they come down. They grab one of those, I don't know what you call them, but those long-handled nets that people use to clean out
To clean
pools.
out crud. Yeah.
And she snags Sarah's head with it, and the
Just-
reviews kept saying like they're trying to drown her, but I'm like, oh, can't she just slip under
Yeah.
water? Or I would have pulled them
just
in.
dive deep. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another thing. It's like, just pull, babe.
I would have
Yank
pulled them
them
in. But anyway, they're just harassing her. She keeps swimming underwater, and at one point, as she's swimming underwater, she swims past this corpse of the lifeguard.
The lifeguard, yes.
Which she doesn't notice.
Right. And I thought that was kind of nice the way they did
I'm
that.
like,
I was like,
wait, what was that? Did he have a head? Was he headless? I couldn't
I
tell.
didn't see. I think he had a head, but
Okay.
yeah, creepy dude was obviously underwater doing that,
Yeah.
killing that lifeguard, but we don't know that
Or
yet.
disposing of the body down there somewhere.
But yeah, and the mean girls are also videoing all of this. They're taking video of it, as they do, because not only do they shame this girl to her face, but they post all of this crap online and are just constantly publicly shaming her. And so what was like, we know this because we've seen these scenes where they post the terrible things that they do to her online. What was building inside of you towards these girls? Because I was already in a place of just like, ooh, you're going to get what's coming to you.
Same.
Yeah.
I was like, this has been going on for what, 10, 15 minutes, and you're still out. Like, move on. Are you not bored?
Do you have nothing better to do with your life? Is your life this sad?
So yeah, I was getting pretty angry. I kept expecting Claudia, who was the girl that apparently knew our main character. She's clearly uncomfortable. You can see in her face that she feels bad and she's uncomfortable, but she never says anything. And I kept waiting for her to at least attempt to say anything, even if the other girls don't listen to her, just to say something. But
right.
And then to top off all their cruelty, when they finally do give up and leave, they take her clothes and her towels so that Sarah's going to have to walk all the way back home in just her
bathing suit.
Yeah, in just her bathing suit.
Which is its own kind of horror. I was thinking about that as I was watching this poor girl go through this journey of shame, walk of shame. For anybody who's ever had body insecurity, and God knows I have, God knows I still do, The idea of being publicly humiliated like that, and then publicly humiliated again by being made to walk through your village in your scantily clad bathing suit, that's just cruel and hateful. And so my heart was with her so much. And
then there's the car of the guys
that's
that
right.
come upon her on her walk home, and then two of them jump out and they're also verbally harassing her, and it looks like they untie her straps to the top of her bathing suit before they finally go off. And
just death to all of them.
But interesting, and I don't know, interesting that they'd never received any retribution the way that the girls did.
Yeah, because and then that leads us right into like what comes next is like she's going through this walk of shame, but we are getting telltale signs that something is amiss. We're catching bits of it where Maka, the main girl, the lead girl, is crawling in the dirt trying to get away. She's all bloody, and then like we see a man's feet walk up to her and essentially drag her back off the main road so that nobody sees her. And then we get to what does she see? She sees a van, right? A parked van. And
it looks like she turns down I don't know if it was like a side road or maybe she's taking a shortcut to her village to avoid the main road. And
to avoid going through the town. Yeah.
There's every kidnapper drives a white van vehicle type thing, apparently.
Yeah.
That's the kidnap van. So she sees it and she stops, and then suddenly she sees like a bloody hand, smack up against the back windshield, and then Claudia's face appears, and Claudia's face is bloody. She looks like she's taken a beating, and Claudia's banging on the window and yelling for her to help.
And Sada's just like frozen in fear.
Mm-hmm.
And then what does he do? He, in this bizarre act of decency, opens the door and drops her clothes and her towel down so that she can have it to give her back something to cover up with. And then he drives off. So it's just this really bizarre, weird thing that he does. And so now we know that, okay, Sada has witnessed all of this. And the question becomes, what is Sada going to do with this information? I don't know. I don't know if you had any thoughts on all of this. Do we go the whole movie and he never has a name?
He never has a name. In fact, in the credits, he's just listed as the desconocido, the stranger. So he doesn't have a name at all.
Okay. Does he even speak?
He says 3 words. I think he says Sarah, and then at some point he says come back.
Okay.
Something like 3 words, basically.
He does no talking throughout the whole movie. It's felt like. So now we're kind of in the middle chunk of this movie. And obviously, this is a small community where everybody knows everybody and everybody's in everybody's business all the time. So people are starting to wonder where these missing kids are because these mean girls have not turned up yet, obviously. And Sada still hasn't revealed to anyone what she saw. We're also in this portion of the movie, we are getting a little bit more of that relationship with her mother. And like Ronnie said, it is very complicated. She is this very overbearing woman who berates her daughter a lot, but you're also kind of seeing how she tries in a very flawed way to stand up for her daughter once Sada tells her, like, I've been getting bullied and you've been doing nothing about it. And so then you kind of see moments of her try to assert herself as a mom, right?
Part of me always wonders, like, well, yeah, the mom was disengaged, but also Sarah never told her. It's like she's expecting her mom to know, when her mom's, they're trying to run a business, that it's a butcher shop. Apparently it's not like a thriving butcher shop. So I'm sure the parents are dealing with the things that all parents deal with. It's like, how do we keep our heads above water financially? So they're not as attuned to maybe what's going on with their kids. But Sarah is also not sharing any of this.
She's not very communicative. Yeah, like a typical teen. She's just sort of
internalizing everything. And literally swallowing it down through food.
Yes, poor baby. She's like sneaking. She has a little box in her room, which I thought, like, her little room with all of its pink embellishments it just added to her sweetness. But yeah, she has a little jewelry box where she keeps her snacks. But one thing that we do learn or come to realize in this portion of the movie is that Sada still doesn't have her cell phone because the girls took off with her cell phone. So she goes out looking for it. And this is her going into the woods. What was it that took her into the woods in the first place? How did she end up there?
She was using her father's phone to do that Find My
Find my cell phone.
Find my phone, whatever. I'm sure like some kind of parent tracker thing. And that leads her out into the woods. And the parents of the missing girls are also out in the woods looking for their daughter.
And
for some reason, the stranger is also out in the woods. So
well, yeah. And it's like, who knows? He might have been going out there to like, I don't know.
At this point, we don't know why he's out there.
But there's all kinds of interesting, we don't know why he's out there, but it's like there's also all kinds of interesting things that come to play in this scene. Cause I'm like, dude, why? Talking about killer dude, why would you dump these victims where and leave their cell phones? Because I guess like in doing the presumably it's Find My iPhone, she does find her cell phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And does she find any of the missing girls' cell phones? No. But just the fact that her missing cell phone is out there, at some point, the parents who are out looking for the kids come across another body. They come across.
Well, see, that's what I missed. I heard somebody say she's dead, but I didn't see anything.
So it was the waitress that worked at the pool.
Who was the waitress? Did we ever see the waitress?
She's a blip that we catch in the beginning of the movie.
Okay.
So what happens is the killer, is sitting at the pool. He orders a drink. Waitress comes, brings his drink.
Oh, that's right.
She comes and drops off a drink to the lifeguard, who like swats her on the butt and is just being kind of a butthole.
Right. I totally just wrote that scene off.
That's what prompts the killer dude to even kill the lifeguard in the first place. And so you think between doing that and
why did he kill the?
I guess because he witnessed this lifeguard be rude to it. This is what's weird about
this. Why kill the waitress?
This is what I'm saying. Like it's like
I need backstory on
you think that it's like, okay, this is a killer who's like got some sort of weird moral compass where he wants to avenge these women, but then he ends up killing the waitress as well. And I was just like, well, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But so anyway, in the course of all that, them finding the waitress's dead body, Sada has a run-in with the killer there in the woods. And so they're like hiding together, and he's trying to like shush her to keep her from like screaming or alerting the parents to where they are. And they have a moment, Ron. Do you want to talk about the moment?
It was creepy on multiple levels. As I told my husband, it's creepy because, okay, he looks like an adult, okay, and she's a teenager, so that's creepy. And then he is a killer. He's a serial killer, apparently, and she's not, so that's creepy.
Baby girl, this is not for you. He is not for you.
You have no survival instincts.
But
that's just how isolated she feels, that even this acceptance or this acknowledgement from this other person, the fact that he's a killer and she knows, even that is meaningful to her.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like she may not know the extent of what he's done yet, but she knows that he took those girls. She doesn't know what happened to them. I do, in relation to what you just said. There is a interview in Variety on the website that we're going to link for you guys with Carlota Pereda, and she answered that question. The interviewer asked her, "Your film led to questions about the on-screen portrayal of male versus female anger. Women with those emotions are often portrayed as crazy, hormonal, too sensitive, while men, that same rage, is seen as almost valiant and masculine. How important was it for you to showcase those emotions inversely?" And she said for her, it was very important. She wanted to express the idea of bad boyfriends, bad guys, and the glamorization that we do of them. She said sometimes when you're a teen, that first guy that lays eyes on you, your friends are almost telling you, oh, you should go out with him. When the reality is like, why? Just because he noticed me? Like, no. But she says, so all of those things. I wanted to express this kind of weird thing that the audience is almost rooting for her to go out with him. I was never rooting for her to go out with him.
Not me.
It's like, no, sweetheart, no.
This is not the way.
He doesn't speak to you. He has said your name and that's it. But she does manage to get back home. She's got her phone. And Pedro comes knocking at her window. Do you want to tell people who Pedro is?
Pedro is Claudia's boyfriend.
Yes. Yes. That's right.
And in the news,
he's a very pretty boy.
He's very fit. And, Sarah obviously also is aware of that fact. And we've kind of heard in the news snippets that have been playing in the background of scenes, the news going on about the missing girls, that suspicion is starting to fall on him because
Yes,
he's the
as it
boyfriend.
would.
And of course,
Yes,
we all
yeah.
watch Dateline. And
Right.
so that's the first people that we suspect.
Yeah.
So he's come to her door, and Sarah goes downstairs to talk with him, and he's asking her, like, what happened, and I know you know something, and she's of course denying it, and he says, well, I know you were there because
They sent the video.
Rossi,
Yeah.
of course, had uploaded the video,
Uh-huh.
and he saw it, so he knows that she was at the pool. She had originally lied to the police and said, no, I
She
wasn't at
wasn't
the
there.
pool today, I
That's
was
right.
at the river.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's wanting to know why she's lying, and that she needs to tell the truth. And Sarah tells him that initially that she can't, but eventually she relents and says, look, if they really do start looking at you and accusing you, and you're going to be in trouble for it, then I will come forward and I will tell the truth.
Yeah.
It's actually a good scene because we realize that Pedro, while also maybe not necessarily standing up to the bullying, he doesn't like it. He has felt sorry for her and deleted the video as soon as it was sent to him. And
Yeah.
what I got from it was that he hasn't ever necessarily been a direct, active participant in the
That's right.
bullying, and that in this moment he's talking to her like a person.
Like a person.
And
And to that point, it is true. Like, he's never there in any of the
Mhm.
moments of the bullying. He's not present for that. So yeah, this is all happening, just these three mean girls that are just constantly going after her. All of this is catching up with her. Sarah is starting to kind of unravel a little bit. She's really becoming torn between wanting to speak up, but
Mhm.
and seeing what she's putting Pedro through, but also not wanting to betray this psycho rando who's suddenly interested in her.
Well, and I think
So
also there's the fear that the longer that she's kept quiet about it, the more questions are going to be asked, like, well, why did you not say anything
right,
right away?
right.
So the
The more
longer she waits, the harder it becomes for her to say anything, even if she didn't have this weird connection with the killer.
yes, who that I think the next big thing. I'm probably glossing over some minor bits here, but the next big thing that happens is that killer guy finds his way into her house at
Mhm.
a time when no one is home, and he's just there kind of rummaging through her drawers. And in walks her father, and so he like attacks her father and like knocks him unconscious. Does he kill him?
See, I wasn't clear. That was my question, is like, for both her parents, did he kill them or just
Yeah, yeah. So because
because
that
he's attacking the
happens.
dad. At the tail end of that is when Sarah and her mom get back from being interrogated at the police station.
Yeah,
And
yeah, and he.
oh, because at this point, when Sarah's mom was out doing laundry, she notices the towel
Mhm.
that Sarah had used, that it has blood on
Cl-
it that I guess has not washed out. And it also has the initials of
Claudia.
Claudia. So
Yeah,
she knows that she has Claudia's towels.
and so
When they
she's
get back from the police, yeah, she's
yeah, she's
confronting her
like
about it.
she's confronting her about it, and she's saying, basically like, "What did you do? Like, what did you do?" And she's pleading with her daughter, who kind of just enters this rage of just like, "I wish you were all dead," and just this like
Yeah. All this
angry
pent up
teen.
anger. Yeah.
Pent up anger, and then out of nowhere, killer guy shows up and like bashes her mother and knocks her down and leaves her bloody and for dead, right?
Mhm.
I don't know that he kills the mom, but he certainly leaves them bloodied and attacked.
He was all ready to also go after her little brother,
That's
her
right.
10-year-old brother, who's yelling
That's
for toilet paper from the
that's
bathroom.
right. Who just needed some toilet paper, man.
And
And
he's heading upstairs with his big old knife, and Sarah stops him. And
so he pulls her out of the house, he puts her in the car, they drive away like Bonnie and Clyde. We're going
well,
into the
she
final.
does try. It did look like she was trying to use her phone, and he takes the phone from her and throws it out the
That's
window.
right. That's right.
So she's not necessarily a willing.
She's starting to realize, oh,
Yeah.
I'm in some heavy
Yeah.
crap now.
She's not necessarily a willing participant at this point. But she's a kid with a
Yeah.
serial killer, so I wasn't expecting her to
Go into
but
Buffy the Vampire Slayer
yeah.
mode.
So he takes her out. I don't know where. They hit a bull because there's
That's
apparently
right.
a bull that's been
bull
on the loose the whole
Uh,
movie.
So this poor bull that's standing in the middle of the road, they plow into it, and
Ferdinand.
Ferdinand goes down, and obviously they get like knocked unconscious. And then the next scenes that we get are he's carrying her into what looks like a maybe like a meat packing facility or something, but it's
Like
abandoned.
abandoned, yeah.
It's abandoned, and she's in and out of consciousness. And so then she wakes up on a slab, and kind of takes stock of where she is at.
Well,
Yeah.
she wanders around. He's not around. It's dark, and she comes across Claudia and Rosie hanging from their arms are tied
like
to
meat hooks. They're hanging
and
from
so
meat
they're
hooks.
hanging
They're
from
not
meat
like,
hooks.
I should clarify, they're not like stuck on meat hooks. They're not physically, their hands are tied, and so they're hanging from ropes that are on meat hooks. So yeah.
But they're alive. But
they are alive.
They're
and
bloody.
she's like, holy crap,
you're alive. So she immediately goes without hesitation and is trying to untie them. She's trying to free them. When, of course, he doesn't have a name. The name serial killer dude.
Killer dude.
Yeah. Shows up. And so I forget which one of them. I think it was Rosie is screaming for Sarah. Run, Sarah, run. Go get help.
Well, and I do want to say, because before he arrives, I was a little agitated. Okay, she sees the girls, and the girls are like so happy to see that she found them, and she's so happy to see that they're alive, and she goes immediately to try to free them. And then I got kind of agitated because even in the midst of this moment, they're still they're berating her a little bit for not getting help. She didn't bring help. Even in this moment, they're still being kind of bitches.
As berating. I didn't take that as berating at all. I took that as just panic.
It's the way they're doing it, because she reacts to it that way. She's just like, I'm just a screw up and I mess everything up. Like, she's receiving it in that way. Digging into her at a time when I'm like, do we need this right now? I don't think we need this right now.
My perception was they're just two girls that are scared out of their minds. I mean, who knows what they've gone through in the 40 hours that they've been missing.
Sarah is realizing the limits of her rage and her bloodlust, because she may have been briefly infatuated with this guy, but she is now
seeing the idea of revenge. But
yes, but she is now seeing the full extent of what that's going to look like. This is where we do, in this part of the movie, we do get to see a little bit of good old fashioned slasher horror. What were some of the moments that stood out to you? When the guy. So eventually the guy does find Sarah. He pulls her from wherever she was trying to hide, because she goes off trying to hide. In the process, she stumbles upon dead Maka, kind of like sliced up and thrown away and dismembered. Eventually he does find her and pulls her back over to the area where the girls are. At one point, he fires off a shot from his shotgun.
First of all, what happens is he hauls her back to where the two girls, Claudia and Rosie, are still hanging from the meat hooks, and he gives his big old hunting knife to her, and he's putting her hand so that they can both kill, I think it was Rosie, together. When he lets her go, and she's like channeling anger, and you think she's going to do it, and then she all of a sudden turns around to attempt to stab the killer, and he blocks her arm, and realizing now that.
But is that before he shoots Claudia or after?
That's before, because it's in their when they're struggling that shotgun goes off.
Okay, so then the shotgun goes off, and so we see that he has shot Claudia's hand clean off. And so you just see this bloody stump. How she didn't pass out, I don't know. I would have passed out. How she retains consciousness is beyond me. Do you want to take people through the gruesome end that Sarah gives the killer, and then maybe talk about your feelings about it?
In that tussle, she also did manage to stab serial killer dude with no name in the side, or at some point in his body, she stabbed him. So he's bleeding on the floor. She's temporarily discombobulated from the rifle going off, but she's coming to, and they just kind of start going mano a mano. They're fighting, and Sarah does because obviously she cannot physically overpower this man. So she does the only thing that she can do is she just. And it was kind of dark, so I'm not sure, but it took a bite out of his neck.
Just like ripped into his neck with her teeth.
She's like, zombie!
With her teeth!
She's channeling her inner zombie. So yeah, she's just chomping on his neck, and I'm sure that
rips a chunk of his neck. It
hits that artery, and so
he bleeds out.
He's bleeding out, and then this was the weird part too for me. It's like she's like all of a sudden seems to be overcome with no, and crying, and that he's dying, and I'm like, child, this man was fixing to kill you.
Right.
You'd slipped off that little pedestal that he had you on, and he was about to kill you. But
so do you think because that waitress that we thought he was maybe sticking up for and then ultimately killed and left for dead in the woods, do you think that maybe he became infatuated with her, and then when she didn't reciprocate, he killed her?
Possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be the only reason why I would think he would do that.
And then
See, we
it's
need a backstory on the killer. We need the story to pick up, like, we need a prequel. The 30 minutes that happened before this movie happened.
as he's bleeding out, Sara, I was about to call her Saradita. I'm like, shame on me. Well, because the reason is because as she like backs away from him and she picks up his rifle and she's just like in a state of shock, Rossi, it says innocently enough, "What did you do, Saradita?" And Sarah turns and fires off a shot in her direction, and you freak out because you're like, oh my God, she just shot her.
Right.
And then I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't then Claudia is pleading for her life, and we see Sara hesitate and think about it, and then ultimately she fires a shot in that direction too, but we don't see what she's
we don't
doing.
immediately see. My thought was like, oh my God, how did she go from trying to free them to now she just shot them?
She snapped. Once she killed that guy, her taste for blood came back.
So she drops the rifle and she just turns and walks out. Like as Valerie said, she's completely drenched in blood. And as the camera pans around, we see that no, in fact, Rosie and Claudia are not dead. She just shot them free from like the ropes that they were hanging from. So they're alive, and she's walked out. As the movie is ending, she's walking down the middle of the road, this country road that apparently nobody drives on.
Bloody, barefoot, like just a scene out of Texas Chainsaw.
And then coming down the road is a motorcycle. Turns out it's Pedro. He's like, and of course he sees her. She's a bloody mess. He's like, oh my God, Sarah, what happened? She says, ayuda. She's like, help.
Yes.
And he says, yes, I'll take you to town. Get on. I'll take you back to town. So that's how the movie ends, is like she climbs back on the motorcycle. They're going to go back to town. Interesting thing that I missed that Robert caught is that Pedro had a black eye, because he had talked about how his father was going to kill him. So, and the whole movie, he had a cast on his arm. So I'm wondering, was that an allusion to that his dad was physically abusive?
Yeah, probably. Because he does say that his father is just like a angry man who lashes out at him, kicks his butt. So what did you think of that ending? How did you like that? How did you like how that wrapped up?
Sarah stood up for herself, and she did not allow what had happened to her change who she was internally, morally. She still, it would have been very easy to, and I think this is probably how kids get caught up in like alt-right movements. And, if you have a disenfranchised person who doesn't feel like they're being seen or heard anywhere else, then they will glom to whoever is going to give them that attention and that feeling of validation, even if it's coming from a bad source, right?
Right.
So she could have easily just identified completely with serial killer dude and gone down that path, and then who knows what have happened. But she ultimately didn't.
It would have been very hard to root for her at that point, because we've now taken the full journey with Sara that she took. It's like at the beginning of the movie, these girls are so awful and you want justice for Sara so much, but then by the end of the movie you're thinking, but not like this. Like this is not. And so when you think for a second that she has snapped and resorted to that, you're like, no.
Go to the dark side.
Go to the dark side. This director, Carlota Pereda, she's a Spanish writer and director. She's done a bunch of short films. So there's this one, Ceredita, which got adapted in 2022 into this movie. Las Rubias, this was her first short film. That was selected for like over 137 festivals, and it won awards at a couple of them. She did a short. The name of it sounds familiar to me, called There Will Be Monsters. I have not seen it, obviously, but I feel like I've heard that title before. And then she did something called Quinca, which was a 2021 short film that she wrote. Other stuff, again, from that Variety interview, the interviewer talked to her about the idea that some scenes felt stuck in time, which I kind of interpreted as them telling her, some of your scenes were really long. Tell us about that. And she said, I really thought this movie through. I really wanted to trap the audience into Sarah's reality. The idea was to make really long shots and to really have the sense that you couldn't escape from that. That's one of the reasons we chose the academic format, to be more claustrophobic. She says, I always end up taking more shots and always have more editing because in the end, I'm too nervous and I want to keep on going and going. But I wanted to be as simple as possible so there weren't many things distracting us from her. To the point that like maybe some areas of the movie feel like they drag speaks to like maybe some of that was kind of intentional on her part, trying to really just trap us in the discomfort.
Well, definitely that scene at the pool when the Maka is just like really just going at her, and like you said, relentlessly, like she's not letting up. It was to the point where we as the audience are, I don't like this anymore. I want this to stop. But it doesn't stop. And that's kind of the point, right? For the person who's being bullied, is it doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop. Yeah. And especially like no one around to help her. No one. She was just out there by herself. Okay. This one I have a question for you. So in one of the reviews that we have linked from Collider, they asked this question: as the stranger, killer dude, becomes increasingly protective of Sarah, there is this strange sense that he's a serial killer with a heart of gold. Is there such a thing? And Ron, I was going to ask you, have there been horror movies that you've watched where in some bizarro way you've rooted for the killer?
I never thought he was a killer with a heart of gold here.
Were there any movies that you've ever seen where it's just like, yeah, where maybe that was the case? You were either rooting for the killer or the ends justified the means in some way.
I can watch a movie like, like John Wick. He goes around with a very high body count by the end of the movie, and it's basically just because the people took his car and killed his dog. But
yeah.
And I was totally rooting for him. So
that's true. That's true. And maybe that's the thing. It's like maybe we would be rooting for this guy if we knew his backstory. We don't know his backstory.
Like, I don't know what caused him to.
Otherwise, he's just a weird dude who stares at girls at pools.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, the possibility of why he killed the waitress. I'm thinking the whole time that Sarah seems to be drawn to him, and I'm like, girl, you do know that the minute you slip and you fall out of whatever his perception of you is, you could end up next.
You could end up next.
It's going to be a very fine line that you're going to be walking if you stick with this dude.
Okay, this is the last question I have. So what is your flavor of revenge, Ron? When you think about how you would avenge yourself and what you would like to see your enemies fall victim to. Like for me, personally, I thought about this. I want my enemies to live long enough to sort of fade into mediocrity and to leave this world feeling trivial, feeling like nothing they did mattered. So that's me. That's me. I take the long road for revenge. What is your flavor of revenge? What do you wish?
No, I like that too. I would want to be like, but whatever it is, it would have to be like that character in Game of Thrones. Like I would want them to know it was me.
It was me, like, yes.
None of this anonymous revenge. No, I want them to know it was me.
Did you watch Game of Thrones?
I didn't watch it all the way to the end. I bailed at some point in there.
There was, I'm going to find you this quote, if I can. This was my favorite thing that he ever said.
Who said?
Is it Tyrion Lannister? Mm-hmm. Tyrion. It's where he's talking to his sister, Cersei. Oh, okay, here it goes. Here it is. Tyrion to Cersei in season 2, episode 8, The Prince of Winterfell. He says, I will hurt you for this. A day will come when you think you are safe and happy, and your joy will turn to ashes in your mouth, and you will know the debt is paid. It's my favorite line out of that whole series. I've never forgotten it. And you will know the debt is paid. Any final thoughts on this movie?
Yeah, I'd recommend it to watch. I would not recommend it as horror. I would recommend it as kind of like a
psychological thriller.
Like a psychological thriller drama piece, but
yeah, it's definitely worth a watch, and it is currently available on Hulu. So if you guys haven't checked it out yet, do, and let us know what you thought of it. Guys, we kind of decided that we would maybe try like at least once a month, maybe more if we find things that speak to us, but at least once a month, it'd be nice to get into a habit of us bringing you recommendations. And we kind of do that already anyway, but this is more specifically us intentionally coming to you and say, we looked at this week, or we are taking in this week, and we really want to recommend it for you guys. It doesn't have to be necessarily horror related. It might be something that we're listening to, maybe a good piece of music, maybe a fun book we're reading, piece of art, TV, whatever. So Ron, did you have anything that you wanted to recommend this week to listeners? Anything what about something that is getting you through this week, through these dark times? What do you recommend for people?
I mean, for me, I just have been watching a lot of booktubers on YouTube talking about their book recommendations, watching their reading vlogs.
Is there anything coming up that you're excited about? Anything on the horizon?
No,
film
I'm pretty
or
much
books
dead inside.
Do you have any comfort shows?
You know what I was pissed about also? I started watching this show on AMC. Can never remember if it's called Dark Skies or Dark Winds. I think it's Dark Winds. But it's kind of set in the 70s, and it's crime procedural, like
Oh, yeah.
police show, but it's set on an Indian reservation, and it's about like the tribal police
Oh, cool.
solving murders, and there's a little mystical element. So I watched the whole first season and I liked it, and then I wanted to go watch the second season, and only to find out that it's only available on AMC's streaming channel, which you have to pay for. So I'm
Well,
like,
where did you watch the first season?
it was just on AMC on their on-demand channel, which is free.
Oh.
But in order to keep watching it, I've got to go pay the streaming, and I'm not going to do that. So
that's a bunch of crap.
They hook you, and then I'm not playing your game, AMC.
If you already have HBO and you're looking for lighthearted, mindless entertainment, I don't know if it's still the case. It was the case as of like earlier this week. HBO Max has, if you want to like go down a little 90s horror nostalgic lane, they've got all the screams of the early years are up. They have Urban Legend, which was a fun one from the 90s. So you can have yourself a little 90s horror movie party and binge that stuff. I do have a recommendation. It would be us doing a disservice to ourselves if we didn't touch on this, given what we kind of started this podcast around. So my recommendation this episode, linking it for you guys in show notes, it's going to be that everybody go and check out this article from the LA Times. Yes, it is the LA Times that refused to make a presidential endorsement, but this is their Delos section, and it's titled Latinx Files, Reckoning with the 2024 Election Results. The reason I bring this up is because if you were online at all post-election day, then you likely saw the voting percentages come out as to who voted one way, who voted the other. There has been a lot of reflection and a calling to the table happening for U.S. Latinos in many of these online spaces. So this article talks about the grim reality that the Latina electorate moved right in unprecedented numbers despite visceral rhetoric from the Trump campaign about cracking down on the immigrant population, ugly false rhetoric about Puerto Rico, and his general long-standing hostility toward Black and brown people, period. It also discussed essentialism a little bit, which is the notion that identity is intrinsic and that it reliably informs behavior, which is erroneous. So we've known for a long time that Latinx people are not a monolith. If you're in Texas like we are, you know all too well that our votes do not come out in one solid voting block. And one important aspect of that conversation is that the giant umbrella term Latinos, Latines does not really address the many groups of people who exist under that umbrella. So there are important cultural notes that distinguish us. Mexican American, Cuban American, Puerto Rican, Dominican, many, many others that exist under this umbrella. And it's also important to understand where those individual groups aligned in terms of how they voted this election. All of that matters. But while that's a crucial, important conversation to have, the other side of it, particularly in light of this election, has to be a reckoning with the roles that anti-Blackness and misogyny can play across our cultural spectrum, across all of those groups that make up the Latino umbrella. Denise Favela is something of a food historian that I follow on social media. She's a Mexican and Californian cooking instructor and recipe developer, and she's kind of a food history buff. In the days after the election, when these numbers were coming out, she had this to say. She said, when discussing Mexican foodways and what our elections reveal about Latino men, we should recognize the instances where women are encouraged to prioritize serving men during gatherings. This reflects the insistence of machismo and gender roles in our community. That dynamic and elements of it exist across our full spectrum. Interrogating why some of us will prioritize traditional notions of family and family planning while voting away our bodily autonomy, interrogating why some of us value male leadership over female leadership, interrogating why some of us will use our vote to further entrench white supremacy instead of working to dismantle it. That's going to be our assignment. And unpacking those things in our own extended families and ending those cycles for our own children, that's going to be the work. And it's going to be painful, but not all pain is bad. So stay open, keep your ears to the ground, keep listening, and stay plugged in because we need you. We are all tired. I know it feels like we're outnumbered, and maybe we are. I don't know. Maybe none of this matters. But if this is us, this scrappy ragtag group of survivors warding off another zombie apocalypse headed our way, then the only chance that we have is if we stand together and hold the line. And if we can do that, I do still believe that we can make it. So to everybody listening, thank you. We love you. And we will see you next time.
Bye. Don't Watch at Night is a Nest production hosted by me, Veronica, and Valerie. Editing by Valerie. Music by Omar Chakor. Production support for this episode provided by Lorenzo Villarreal and Alex Street. Listen to new episodes of Don't Watch at Night every other Monday, and don't forget to give us a rate and review. It's the best way to help us grow.